All right, good afternoon. I think it's it's about good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Can you guys hear me well in the back? Excellent. So my name is Devang Sachdev, and this is Stuart Logan, and it's a pleasure to talk to you guys about what can you do with Twilio Voice and Twilio Messaging. Now, consider this as your introduction to Twilio. We want to make sure that you understand Twilio so that you can be set up for the rest of the day, whether it's part of the strategy track or the technical track. If you're already a Twilio Ninja, we would encourage you to move into a more advanced session that could be taking place upstairs. I don't think you would mind people leaving if they wanted to go to advanced session.
I'm Australian, I don't get easily offended.
Okay, let's get started then. So at Twilio, we believe that the best customer experiences are intentionally designed. This app may seem very familiar to you. So this is the Uber app. If you order an Uber ride and it shows up at your door, if you can't find it, you can communicate with the driver directly through the app, right? You have the context of the app. You can see where the driver is. You don't need to call a switchboard, and then you can choose what channel you want to communicate with the driver. Be it messaging, be it voice, or something else in the future that Uber could offer. But the point over here is that Uber has intentionally designed communications as part of the ride-hailing experience. And they've changed it. They've fundamentally changed it as compared to what it used to be before. Now, the question is that why are communications hard to customize or intentionally design? Because really, as a business, you were given two choices, right? One, host something in the cloud or in your closet, come up with carrier connections, and then build up the entire software layers so that you can add these communications to your applications. The challenge with building your entire stack was that it would take a lot of time, it would take a lot of money, and most importantly, it would take some amount of specialized skills before you could get your developers to start adding things into their mobile or web apps. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, you could buy off-the-shelf cloud solutions. They're great. You know, the pricing is probably per month or by the year. It's very easy to get started. Usually there's a great UI that you can start using instantly. But the challenge there is that they're very hard to customize. If you wanted to add anything that was custom as far as communication feature was concerned, it would take you some amount of time to convince your vendor to add it to their roadmap and for them to roll out before you could add it to your own experiences, right? And when you think about customization in the digital world, think about websites or think about mobile apps. People are changing their mobile apps probably every week. The websites are probably changing every few months. In some businesses, they're changing every minute if they're running tests and other things. But when you think about communications and you ask yourself as to when was the last time you updated your IVR and how hard was it? When was the last time you visited an omni-channel strategy and said, I want to add a new channel because that's how I'm going to raise my customer satisfaction score? So we believe that is there a way to make communications and customize communications as if you were almost updating your website? That's where Twilio comes in. So Twilio has taken the telecom stack and they've turned it into an API. This way, software teams like yourselves can add voice, messaging, video, and a few other channels into your web and mobile applications. Now, when you think about a phone call, we've got to ask ourselves as to why do I even need to program a phone call? I have a phone sitting in my pocket, you have one sitting in yours, I can pick up mine and start dialing you. As a business, why am I going to need to program a phone call? And what we found was as soon as we turned the communication network into an API, we figured out that people were using these calling APIs in many different ways. I want to share a few with you, but the real good part about it is that if it's available as an API, it's up to the creativity of your developer to be able to use it in the way in which your business needs. So let's look at a few examples. Parkinson's Voice Project, a research outfit here out of UK, they customized their IVR phone tree so that patients could call in, leave a voice recording, and on the back end, Parkinson's Voice Project engineers were able to analyze that recording and detect signals or detect symptoms of Parkinson's. Very, very powerful, and they were able to roll this out in a few weeks without having to make any kind of capital investment. Now, designing phone trees is not net new, but being able to do it in a short amount of time, being able to do it in a way in which any web developer can pick it up and start helping research organizations or start helping businesses that are not experts at communications, that was very powerful. Another way, again, a local brand, CarWow, makes it really easy for you to find your next new car. They have a network of several different dealerships, or I would say thousands of dealerships within the UK, and they're driving business to these dealerships. When they're driving business, CarWow says that 1 out of every 4 phone calls turns into a car purchase. So 25% conversion, that's huge. But in order to get to the point where every single phone call is that meaningful, they had to make sure that they were advertising at the right place. So what they did was they associated phone numbers with different ads, and they optimized that ad network to make sure that the places where they were putting their dollars in, putting their ad dollars, was turning into leads. This is another way how they have used the Twilio Voice APIs. And finally, John Lewis, they launched this new service called Home Solutions, and they connect clients, consumers, with different tradesmen, such as a gardener, or if you need any help with your fireplace, they'll make sure that you're connected with someone who can really help you out, a professional. Now, in making that connection, they want to make sure that your private information, such as your phone number and other things, can stay secure while you're having that conversation. So on both ends, they're anonymizing or they're masking by putting proxy phone numbers. So those are 3 different ways. There are many other ways in which businesses are using programmability when it comes to a phone call. And at the end of the day, what's really, the way to think about it is, phone call is now, or programming a phone call now, is a building block that you can add to any experience when the context is right to make that phone call. In order to make a phone call, you need a phone number. So Twilio provides phone numbers in 100 different countries. We have toll-free numbers, and also we have the ability to port your number so that you can turn a phone number into an instantly provisionable number. And you can associate that number with either individuals, either different businesses, or even different departments within your business, down to the granularity of associating a phone number with a digital identity like an AdWord. And this unlocks a lot of ways in which you can create new experiences. Now, also when we think about a phone call, it's not necessarily just the one that is sitting in your pocket. There's one sitting on your desk. There's probably one sitting on your web browser. And there's an automated way to make phone calls using web servers as well. And Twilio allows any combination to be the dialer and the receiver when programming a phone call. When you ask, what does it take to program a phone call? And Stuart is going to show us a demo a little bit later. But Twilio has given you verbs so that you can use these as handles to make the phone call. So for example, dial, and when you add a phone number behind it, you can just simply use that verb to tell Twilio, dial this number out. We're going to see it in just a few minutes. So calls are great, but how many of us made a call today? I haven't yet. We text. I've sent out several texts since this morning. We did a study last year, and we found that 9 out of 10 consumers want to text a business. So show of hands, how many of you offer texting as a channel for your consumers or your customers to contact you? Great. Hopefully you get some new ideas when you're looking through this presentation. But there are many ways in which businesses are using messaging to connect with their customers. And it ranges all the way down from a simple notification. So you could receive a notification saying, hey, here's a new coupon for you, for someone who's opted into receiving that message, all the way down to a conversation where you're able to help your customer just through the texting channel, rather than having to make them pick up a phone and call and wait in line before they get any help. So a few other use cases would be giving them a 2FA or a security code to be able to log in, or giving them proactive information about where their service or their product is. Again, making it easy for your customers to get in touch with you is the unlock that messaging brings. And when you think about messaging channels, it's not just SMS. SMS is probably the most common one, probably maybe even the lowest common denominator when it comes to connecting with the customers. But they're talking over different messaging channels. You could offer an in-app chat so that they're able to communicate with you directly through the context of the app. Push notifications another way to just communicate simple notifications, and then over-the-top apps such as Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, Line. Again, something that has more sort of a regional as well as a social context when it comes to texting each other. And really, how you choose which channel to communicate with your customers on, which channel to use for messaging, depends upon your use case, and then also depends on your customer's preference. It's really important to make sure that you understand and you offer the channels that your customers prefer, because that's when it's going to be convenient for them to connect with you and leave with a positive communication experience. Might have seen this, probably for folks in the back of the room, it might be hard to read. Quite a bit of an eye chart, and I don't expect you to read everything, but I want you to take away 4 things that Twilio Cloud represents. One is the super network, and when it comes to voice and messaging, this whole stack is what allows us to offer communications of building blocks to you. So super network is the foundation, whether you're just using phone numbers or using SIP, or you're thinking about building something with wireless. On top of that is our communications cloud, which contains different channels. So today's talk is focused on SMS and voice, but we also have video. There are a few other talks related to video chat, and then we launched programmable fax just in May. On top of that, we have our engagement cloud, and this allows you to create the right kind of customer engagement without having to reinvent the wheel by building software that you need to connect to communication APIs. So for example, with Task Router, you can route any kind of task, whether it's a phone call, or whether it's a message, whether it's a chat, to the right person within your team. And then we have the best tools for developer experience, and we're going to talk a little bit about functions today. But the fact that you have these rich tools available makes it a much more easier and much more agile development experience when it comes to using communication APIs. So we're going to jump into the demo. I know we're running a little bit behind, so I want to make sure that we get to see the most meaty part of this session. And Stuart has spent a lot of nights and weekends trying to figure this out. So for the demo, we're going to look at how do you buy a phone number, and how do you program it to be able to send out a text message, make a phone call using functions. Take it away, Stuart.
Cool, next slide. Thanks, Devang. I don't need that. Thanks, Devang. So everyone, feel free to send a text to one of these numbers now if you would like to. You might be a little bit disappointed unless you're a Willy Wonka fan. So first of all, I just wanted to set the scene. So how many of you here have been on a conference call before? Pretty much everyone. And I'm guessing that experience went a little something like this. So you received an email, and it contained a list of numbers. And you picked the one that was closest to your area code, and you rang it. Then you had to enter a conference code, and that could be anywhere from 4 digits to 10 digits. Maybe it ends in a hash, maybe it doesn't, who knows. And I don't know about you, but for me, trying to flick from my email client to my dial pad, trying to remember that number, it's a bit of a jarring experience. And it might be a similar one to what you're offering your customers at the moment. So why should it be that difficult for your customers to do business with you? So with that in mind, today's demo is designed to show you 3 things. First, how you can seamlessly bring your customers into your organization using Twilio. Second, for the developers in the room, I'm sure there's 1 or 2, to show you how you can do this quickly and easily. And third, how we can do it all without any costly investment in hardware or private cloud infrastructure. So let's get to it. The first thing I'm going to need to do is give my customers a number. So here's one that I provisioned earlier. It is a UK number. It could have been anywhere from 100 countries. I can instantly give my app global reach. Now, I don't want people dialing in on this number. We've just established that's not the greatest experience. So how about we let our customers send a text message to that number to let us know that they're ready to go into the conference, and then we call them and then put them into the conference. So to do that, I need to tell Twilio what to do when it receives a message. And in this case, I'm telling it to look up a TWIML bin. And what's a TWIML bin? Well, I'm glad you asked. So those of you that have managed to send a message off should have received this as a response. So a TWIML bin is simply somewhere in your own Twilio console that you can store TWIML. And TWIML is the language that Twilio understands to make things happen. In this case, as you would have seen on Devang's slide earlier, all I had to do was say message, and it sent a message back to you. Now, just to prove that things are happening here in real time, I'm just going to change this message to something a bit more helpful. And that alone, it's not particularly interesting. As you'd imagine, all that's going to happen is you're going to get a slightly different message now to the one that you got before. So I'm going to introduce a redirect verb. And what this is going to do is tell Twilio to redirect the workflow once it's sent that message. And where I need to redirect it to is a Twilio function. Comes with its own URL that I'm just going to copy and paste into here. So a Twilio function is a serverless environment where you can write your own code inside of the Twilio console. You provide Twilio with the communications events that you want to happen. Make a phone call, send a message, and Twilio carries that out on your behalf, all on Twilio's own infrastructure. So this not only ensures a seamless experience, it ensures one that will scale as your app becomes more successful. So what is it that my function's doing? Well, first of all, it's creating a Twilio client, and that's going to do my heavy lifting to create calls and send messages. Now, when this workflow redirects from my TWIML bin before, it sends across some pretty interesting information, and that comes to me as form data, which is something that any web developer is used to working with. So from that form data, I've been able to get the number that the message came from and the number that the message was sent to. And I'm going to reverse those so I can make a call out to you. Finally, once you've answered that call, I still need to get you into the conference. And I'm going to do that with the help of my URL down here. And that URL is another TWIML bin. But this time, instead of sending a message, I'm going to dial you into a conference, specifically my Signal London conference room. So it's at this point. You can all send a message to one of these numbers again and enjoy the mayhem of you all entering a conference in a very confined space. Can hear someone ringing, that's good. I can hear lots of people ringing. Oh, if your phone's on D&D, it will go straight to your voicemail. So there you have it. That's over 100 people, all in the same conference, all with the power of just a simple text message. So those of you that have now disconnected from that conference, you should have by now, or just about to receive, a thank you message. But how did Twilio know to send you that thank you message? Well, you might have noticed something interesting happening inside of my conference verb. I've declared a couple of nouns, and these nouns instruct Twilio to let me know what's going on inside of my conference. Specifically, I want to know when someone joins or leaves the conference. And that information is sent back to me via a webhook to this URL. And you guessed it, that URL is another function. So this function receives those events. And if it sees a participant leaving, then I ask Twilio to get me the call log for that call using the REST API. Then I instruct Twilio to start putting a message together. I use the to and the from number from that call log, and then send, thanks for attending. So that's it from me, everyone. Hopefully you've all got that message, and I look forward to seeing you all at the bash party tonight, where I can't wait to see what you build.